back here for another weekly lesson. This is your girl from Heart of the City, San Diego. What's Heart of the City, San Diego? So Heart of the City, San Diego is a ministry nonprofit and a podcast that originally got started to promote, business owners in San Diego. And we did, and it's free. So, I don't charge for it or anything like that. But, I wanted to meet the people in San Diego and also help the people in San Diego. I wanted to be a part of helping and not just, it being kind of transactional. Okay, because you get into the business spaces and everything is very transactional. Okay, and I'm first and foremost, I'm a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so I don't want to be in the category of, transactional things, right? That everything I do has to have a cost to it or something, or, that I'm asking for something in return. You can donate. That would be great, because that actually is helpful. It's not like a transactional thing. It's actually paying it forward. So that's what that does. It pays it forward for other people to have access to come onto the podcast, so that the podcast can keep running. Okay, so that it can have a purpose behind it, so that it can have the things that it needs. Whether I might buy, a couple of waters for people as they come and sit down, or whatever, and they're not drinking my tap water. Just dumb little stuff. It's not that I don't have a major cost in my ministry. That I keep it like that on purpose, so that it could be done and able to help others without this big overhead, right? It's this big, overhead cost. So it's the way I wanted it done, and I've interviewed so many amazing people and other pastors and things like that. So. I find it very, very fun and very interesting to do. So I hope that you get a chance to go over to Heart of the City, San Diego, and take a look at that. And all you got to do is just Google Heart of the City. So today's lesson, we're on the topic of miracles that Jesus performed. There are about 40 of them that I have here. And today's one is, we're going to be talking about Jesus calming the storm. So we're going to look at all the different reactions to, the people as Jesus was in their lives, in around them, walking with them, and the humanity of Jesus, but also the supernatural part of his ministry as well. So there's a lot of stuff that Jesus did. Hi, I see you there. See people popping in. Thank you for coming in, watching, and listening. So. And I'll read to you. We're in Matthew 23 and to 27, and then you could also find the story in Mark and also in Luke in the Bible. So it's calming the stormy sea, and it says here, while Jesus and his disciples were in a boat crossing a lake, possibly the Sea of Galilee is what people think it was, a storm frightened his disciples while Jesus slept. They awoke Jesus, fearful that the storm would harm them. And Jesus then, miraculously, he calmed the storm. In part of this story, it says, when he got into a boat, his disciples followed him, and behold, a violent storm came upon the sea, so much that the boat was covered with waves, but he was asleep. The disciples came to him and woke him up, saying, "Save us, Lord, save us." So they were scared, right? I see you. Hi. And he said to them, "Why are you fearful, O you of little faith?" Then he got up, rebuked the wind and the sea, and there was a great calm, right? The sea kind of represents a lot of different things. It was literally the sea that they were crossing. They were literally in a boat. But that story represents kind of a lot of different things, right? It represents, hard times that we go through in life. We call it a storm. It represents the anxiety that we have inside of us. Fearfulness, facing different, obstacles that we have to face because of life. I'm not talking about being a daredevil and, jumping freestyle with a parachute kind of fear. I'm talking like, you've been diagnosed with a illness that is very scary, right? You're just minding your own business and suddenly you're diagnosed with an illness, or a family member is diagnosed with an illness. And that causes a lot of fear and anxiety. And that could be a type of storm in our lives. And Jesus comes and he says, "You of little faith," and he rebuked the wind and the sea, and it calmed it. It went away, and it was done. And it calmed, the wind was still around, but it calmed it, and it made everyone feel safe. And it was because Jesus, what he noted here is, "Why are you fearful?" And then, "Oh, you of little faith." So those two things, fear and faith, are highlighted kind of in the story, right? Because that is part of our human life and stuff. So say SOS 911. That's so true. That's funny. And so the men marveled at saying, "What kind of man is this that even the wind and the sea obey him?" They were like, imagine this happening. And sometimes in our lives, when we call out to God and we say, "God, I am going through stuff and I have the big anxiety. Please help me. I need you." And we say a prayer, and we feel better, right? We feel better. We feel at peace. Our stomach is not all in knots and hurting us anymore. And now we feel like we could face the day, and we believe that prayer helped. And so, we can go to God, and we can also marvel when he does these types of things in our lives, and he shows us that he is capable, that he sees us, that he hears us, right? So he calmed the storm. And so you guys are cracking me up with the 911 thing. In another story, it's that Jesus here is now in another situation that had arisen, and they came to the other side of the sea and into the country of Gadarenes. When he had come out of the boat, immediately a man with an unclean spirit met him out of the tombs. He lived in the tombs, and nobody could bind him anymore. Meaning, like if he was a crazy guy, and nobody could fix him and restrain him anymore. They couldn't bind him. They couldn't like restrain him anymore. He just was wild and crazy and stuff, kind of thing. So he lived in these tombs, and nobody could bind him anymore, not even with chains. The chains couldn't even hold him. So because he had been often bound with fetters and chains, the chains had been torn apart by him and the fetters broken in pieces. And nobody had the strength to tame him. Where am I at now? Always, night and day, in the tombs and in the mountains, he was crying out and cutting himself with stones. This cutting thing is crazy stuff. It's demonic. And so when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and bowed down to him, crying out with a loud voice. He said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus? You, Son of the Most High God, I adjure you by God. Don't torment me." For he said to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." So, hello, I see you there. Thanks for popping in. And so the man with the unclean spirit was miraculously healed. The demons left him, and he was in his right mind. Okay. In fact, in the story, he asked him, "What is your name?" And he said to him, "My name is Legion," which means many. And he begged him much, that he would not send them away out of the country. Now, on the mountainside, there was a great herd of pigs feeding. All the demons begged him, saying, so this is what made this man wild and able to break chains and everything, is because he was demon possessed, and the demons were scared of Jesus, and Jesus was causing them to come out, and they had to go somewhere. And so they were begging him, "Please don't send us here, don't send us there." But what Jesus did was he saw the pigs, and he sent the demons to go and into the pigs. And then the pigs, all the demons said, "Send us into the pigs, that way that we may enter into them." And at once, Jesus gave them permission, and the unclean spirit came out and entered into the pigs, and the herd of about 2,000 rushed down the steep bank into the sea, and they were drowned in the sea. So imagine that, right? Imagine that kind of crazy scene that happened in the Bible, right? So, thank you. So I imagine that that you're there and you're witnessing these types of things. Well, this happens a lot of times. Maybe sometimes it's not happening to that, like that there's not thousands of pigs running into the sea, but you can pray for people, and sometimes when they are in distress, sometimes it is demonic. And we can say, in the name of Jesus, but because Jesus has given us authority, when we believe and have faith that Jesus died and rose again, and we become a Christian, he's given us that ability to pray for people and say to demonic activity to leave them in the name of Jesus. And we can tell that spirit to get out of here, go somewhere else, go into the rats that are down the street or whatever, but don't come around here no more. And people can be suddenly well. like that, and I've seen that personally by praying for people. And it kind of blows your mind, but I grew up I didn't grow up in church, but like in my years, 40 years, and I started going to church when I was 20. And so, now I'm 60, which has been a lot of years. And so, I've got to go to churches that knew how to pray for people and cast out demons. And so, I've seen it over and over and over again. And so it wasn't something that, was new to me to see, because I seen it from day one when I started going to church. So, I know that it happens because I've seen it with my own eyes and have prayed for people with my own voice and have seen them get well, suddenly well. So, even that, and that is even with a diagnosis with a real, psychologist. And so, and them, saying, wow, that's amazing that this person is doing well, right? So we'll do one more, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Let me see. We did, okay, right here. Healing the woman with internal bleeding. Also, there was a woman who had been suffering from an internal bleeding for several years, was miraculously healed after she touched Jesus. A certain woman had a discharge of blood for 12 years and had suffered many things by many physicians and had spent all that she had. Imagine that you're suffering with something, you go and see the proper doctors, and have to suffer with this for all those years, right? And it didn't get better. So no one knew what to do with that. But rather it got worse. And having heard the things concerning Jesus, it came up behind him. She snuck up behind him in the crowd, and she touched his clothes. For she said, if I just touch his clothes, I will be made well. And immediately the flow of blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her affliction. So how do you think that happened? I think that it was her faith, right? She believed, and she went and she believed that Jesus was the healer. So, which he is, and that's how she got healed. Immediately, Jesus, perceiving in himself that the power had gone out of him, so he felt the power leave him, and he turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? And his disciples said to him, and this is kind of silly because his disciples say to him, you see the multitudes pressing up against you, basically there's a whole crowd, Jesus. How do we know who touched you? That's basically what they were saying. You see the multitudes pressing up against you and you say, who touched me? How do we know? And he looked around to see her who had done this. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had been done, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. He said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace, right? It's okay. And she was cured of her disease. Imagine that. Imagine that. God is so good to us. Isn't he so good to us? So, I think that I like the stories of healing. I think it's good for us to know about God's goodness and healing for our lives. And I think that more people should read the Bible. Read the Bible. And instead of all of the fighting, all of the backbiting, all of the you think you know this scripture and you think you know that scripture, and all of the different religions that are out there, I think that just knowing God and knowing that Jesus is the Son of God is kind of a miracle in itself. It is kind of a miracle. Well, not kind of. It is a miracle in itself, right? And so, if you look into it, you're on your own, with your own time, for yourself, you will find all of these wonderful miracles, and all of the goodness that God can give to you for yourself. And He can use you to help others, okay? We need more of that. We need more of the humanity that cares for one another instead of criticizing one another, right? And then I always look at it like, because, I've always interviewed people on my podcast for Heart of the City San Diego, promoting business owners and people like that in my own city, right? Helping out in my own environment in San Diego, in my own city. I'm worldwide, but, I try to do as much as I can for my city. And so, getting them promoted, getting them, getting some momentum behind them, encouraging them to go out to do the thing that is hard to do. Building a business is like raising kids. If you haven't raised kids, you're going to learn some things. If you've raised the kids, then you're going to, you already know, you already mentally understand that some things that you love, you're going to have to learn how to take care of this thing. You're going to have to learn how to grow it, build it, and then it might betray you. There might be times of betrayal because, in it, there are other, people, flawed people in it. And there might be times of, challenges and arguments and whatever that you have to overcome, right? And be a bridge builder. Be someone who is, who's straight out, straight, and dealing with stuff. But not everything has to be straight and dealt with. Some things can just be left alone. Some things can be guided, I wasn't always like, in my kid's face, telling them, you bad kid, you should have done that. There was a lot of that, but, I wasn't always doing that. And some of it was just, they have to learn from their own failures. And then there's some guiding in it, navigation in it as well, and as encouraging them that when they do fail, it's going to be okay. They can overcome that. I remember my daughter, she bought her home in another country, and then she was worried, I'm going to be trapped here because now I have bought a home and now I want to move to another country. And I'm like, you're not trapped. It's okay. You're going to be okay. And there's lots of different things that you could do in that situation. So, it's a new adventure and a new navigation. If we come into it looking at it as something exciting, my granddaughter is now going to college, and I'm so proud of her. My oldest grandchild, and so she mentioned that she's excited but nervous, and I was telling her, nervousness is just excitement of the unknown, and so, and many of the unknowns she's already conquered. She's already, overcome and faced. So, this is just another. This is a piece of cake. It's not. It's compared to some of the things that she's faced. This is a piece of cake, and no problem. She could do it. And so I'm just so proud of her. But we all have new things that we have to face, and they're scary. They can be scary, and nerves can mistakenly tell us that it's fear. But if we tell that nerve that comes our way, and we say to it, hey, this is excitement, excitement to get to the unknown, to see what the unknown will bring. It's looking forward to it. It's a challenge. It's like, let's get it on. Let's do this. It's fun. And if we look at it in that way, instead of, oh my gosh, I'm scared. Oh my gosh, I'm scared. We're gonna scare ourselves so bad, right? So, and I do this too. I still do this. I still have to tell myself stuff. I still have to say, hey, this is just a new thing, and it's going to be exciting and stuff. It seems kind of scary right now, but it's something that if you can do all those other things, trust me, you can do this. Okay. So with that said, I love you guys. I'm going to let you guys go for now. So I'll let you guys go for now. And I really appreciate Raylene, who was here. Raylene Walters, so cool. I like cool people. And we had, who else was that? Yana Cookies, saying SOS 911. And so, let me see. Today is someone's birthday, little K2O. Happy birthday to you. What is that? Oh. And another K2O said hi. 67 said hi. All right, cool. What's that? Oh, somebody else came on right now. Hi, I see you there. So yeah, so glad. Anyways, I like to give shout outs to cool people, and and people that are, that pop in here that, that want to be here and be a part of a community. And honestly, because there's so many trolls on here, and nobody pays attention to trolls. People only pay attention to people that are saying something productive, because that's how people are. We want to be encouraged. We like to see productivity, right? And people, when you are trolling someone, basically people just they block you, they blank you, and you're not, you're dehumanized, basically. So, if you want to be acknowledged, be productive. Say something nice. Go to people's pages and say hi, or say, what are you talking about? Or, ask a question, or say, oh, I like what you're saying, or, whatever, something like that. But, saying things that are negative, or being negative and trolling and just causing, unneeded, dumb stuff, basically you're just not acknowledged and you're just blocked. So, to those people who are here, you guys are awesome. You guys rock, who is this? Kia Delon came on. Hey, what's up? And they're saying hi. So, those are the kind of people that I give shout outs to. Okay. And have a great day, you too. So I'm going to go because I got to go to work. I have to work a regular job. And so, I like my job. I like going to work and everything. And on the side, I build a business. I'm building a business and doing that kind of thing. And pretty soon I will be able to go do that full time. And how many of you would like to see some interviews of new business owners and stuff and their stories? Would you like to see those conversations? If you want to see the conversations that I have so far, go over to my other Facebook. It's called, not Facebook. It's on Facebook too, but my other YouTube is called Heart of the City San Diego. Heart of the City San Diego. And there is where I have all of my former interviews of business owners and other ministry leaders here in the city of San Diego, and what they're up to, what they were, how they got to be who they are and stuff. Everybody is so unique and so different. But I've only been in my new home for about a year, and in that year I've been so busy. And so now I've kind of, my work schedule is kind of calming down and, staying steady. And I could set up appointments to now, encourage the community of business owners who I know personally and who are just getting started or growing, or returning, and we can hear their story of where they're at now, how they're doing now, since the last podcast and stuff. So, I do love to sit down and talk with people. I was doing it at a library, a really high-end, beautiful library, and I had access to it and stuff. And so, but now I'm thinking of just having people come to my home. It's kind of tricky having people come to your home. I don't know. I have to think about that one. But we could always do it anywhere. We could do the interviews. I probably still have access to that one place, but it's a bit far away. So, well, thanks. Someone's saying, "Oh, that's cool." Well, thank you. Podcasts. People are so brilliant with these podcasts. They're so amazing. They've developed them and have done so many wonderful things with them. But I can only just do what I know to do. And the people that I know will be unique to the people that you know. And but we all have something of value to bring to each other, right? All right, so go on your way. Be blessed wherever you are in the world. I love you guys. And this is Gloria Medrano. And I got to get going. Bye. Love you.